1962, I saved my mother's life. I wasn't even born yet, but I saved my mom's life. She was diagnosed with an aggressive form of breast cancer while pregnant with me. It was in 62. She was 32 years old. She already had a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old. And in all reality, she did not think she was going to survive this diagnosis. Now, her emotions were mixed with both fear and anger. Fear for her children and anger for her circumstances. Decades later, I found out that she was actually ready to leave my dad the year prior to this. And the reality is, women in that era, early 60s, they didn't divorce. They didn't leave their husbands. It was just not what you did. There was nowhere to go, and there was very little work opportunities. So she stayed, and then came the third pregnancy, along with that cancer diagnosis. Now, we both should have died that year, but obviously I didn't, neither did she. However, that experience left us both scarred for life. She had the physical scarring of the surgery that removed the cancer, and back then, when they did these surgeries, it's not like today where you have a plastic surgeon and they, you could barely see anything. They took out everything, the lymph, and she was left really mutilated with like a Frankenstein scar. I remember this growing up. And that scarring was just a daily reminder of what a horrific experience that she had. I was left with stories of how I saved my mother's life because the doctors told her that it was the pregnancy that caused her body to protect the baby and isolate and encapsulate the cancer so it wouldn't spread. And so, what was it like? You saved your mom's life. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Because the kind of cancer she had was very aggressive and it should have killed her. But, God had another plan. And my own cancer risk. So, not only was I told I saved my mom's life, but also that I was at high risk for cancer because I was, she was pregnant with me while she was dealing with this. And so it was not only my mom dealing with the cancer, but I was raised with hearing about the stories of my grandmother who dealt with an aggressive form of cancer in her 50s. And so, it kind of set me up for fear my whole life growing up of, oh my God, I'm going to get cancer, I'm going to get cancer. And, that was over 62 years ago. Now, I stopped worrying about cancer over 30 years ago when I discovered the actual cause of my mother's cancer, along with my grandmother's cancer. And I started to work on turning all those genetic predispositions around. And it wasn't just cancer, but obesity, diabetes, and an array of other health issues. See, I never knew my mom to be healthy. I grew up with her, just watching her struggle her entire life. And I'm a picture of my mother. And so I was like, oh my God, So, of course I was a crazy teenager and, it's like, well, if I'm gonna die, I may as well live it up, right? Anyway, not giving in. I didn't give into it. Mom lived the rest of her life struggling, and I watched her go downhill with little to no answers from the medical field. She died at 67 years old from multiple complications with her health. What was interesting, what ultimately got her was a liver disease, although she never drank. But she did consume artificial sweeteners every single day. That was like our beverage we had in the house. A huge gallon of iced tea sweetened with saccharin. She loved her saccharin. I never knew her to be well or vibrant. I was determined to find answers and not give in to an inevitable diagnosis. I succeeded